forest walks are and always will be the soothing balm for my soul and spirit. My feeling of belonging in Scotland was born many moons ago and evolved through learning about the culture, the history, and the magic of so many places here. As a lover of languages and coming from a culture whose language sounds harsh, getting to know the soft, heathered vowels of Scottish life created a shift in me and allowed my sensitive soul to rewild. Living in the embrace of the Scottish culture, the solitude that re-energizes me, where ancient landscapes finally spoke my name, is a blessing that cannot be properly put into words. Scotland allowed me to rewild my identity, seeking sanctuary and finding a meaningful life through quiet and rural living. Knowing and learning the ancient language of the Celts bond me with the places I visit, the landscapes I see, and tales I am hearing. Scotland has put into perspective what matters. It has peeled away the social norms, the expectations, the hurt and joy to free the core of what makes me unique. Scotland has changed me throughout the years. Her language, her magic, and her beauty have allowed my sensitivity to find a home and belonging. From the first moment I ever breathed her air, I knew I was home. My quiet life spent in nature whenever I can is a stark contrast to what my life was like before, the person I had to be. I'm sure many of you know this feeling. Aligning yourself with what matters to you, what makes you the unique, beautiful soul that you are, is the true achievement in our modern times. Before I relocated to Scotland, I had a very large social circle. I lived in the town I grew up in, so there were people I knew from childhood. There were the neighbours and of course my colleagues. And later, when I had my son, there were people I got to know through kindergarten and school, and not to speak of my own very large family. So I had a very busy life as a single working mother. And in my family for a long time it was customary to celebrate every birthday, every spouse's birthday, every child's birthday, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, baptisms, weddings, and everything else. So you can imagine every other weekend we were gathering. And I dreaded this. Every time there was a gathering, I didn't want to go. Every time I arrived, I wanted to just leave. But I stayed out of respect, and later, when my son was born, for him to also have a relationship with my family. You might also know that I have lived abroad before. I lived in France and in the USA. And when I did so, I was quite happy to be further away from my family, physically removed. And that was an aspect for me when I relocated to Scotland that I knew I would appreciate as well, even though I loved my dear father so much and I missed him very much as well, as I did and still do with many of my wonderful friends I have. Coming to Scotland was my heartfelt desire though, and had nothing to do with my family. But it meant my life was immediately reduced to much less noise and people. Today I have a very quiet life, and today I know that exposing yourself to people and social circumstances and trying to force to be an extrovert like the experts say people who are highly sensitive should do didn't work for me. I tried and nothing ever changed the feeling I had, which was exhaustion. Today I pick and choose whom I meet, where and for how long. But a quiet life doesn't mean I'm inactive. I'm very creative, and if you watch my content regularly, you will see so in every of my vlogs. I'm also an avid walker and am out and about a lot. I love nature. In nature, I re-energize. Nature is everything I need. And I love to just see the sea and the woods and the mountains and the birds and flowers. I just connect with it. This is my sanctuary. So choosing this quiet life makes me really content. And being physically removed from the family I was in is a bonus, but was never the reason I came to Scotland. I would highly encourage everybody to find your happy place. If this is within your family, within your culture, that is wonderful. But if it isn't, maybe you can make wee changes. You deserve to lead a life of happiness and content. We all do. And with that, I'm sending you to the next part of the vlog. My love for Scotland is seated in my childhood. I shared a room with my younger sister and we had this wee TV, which was quite chunky though, where I saw a programme about Scotland. I loved to hear the bagpipes and see the scenery they showed, so I was already intrigued. And when I travelled to Scotland for the first time myself, I absolutely fell in love with the country, and still am, quite to the day. Often I get asked, did you come out of love to Scotland? And of course people mean a person involved. But no, that wasn't the case. I just love this country. In fact, I met my husband 7 years after I relocated. I also always liked languages in school because the German language is quite harsh. And I had English and French in school, which I both liked, but I was always better in English, and that's because it was connected to Scotland. Later I came across a band called Runrig, a Scottish band. They are no longer active today, but they sang in English and Gaelic. And I had some of the albums and I tried to read what I heard them singing. There's always these little songbooks in the CDs back in the day. And I couldn't quite make out the words, even though they were printed, because written Gaelic is very different from spoken Gaelic. And that intrigued me even further, so I researched and I found an institution in Germany that taught Celtic languages, amongst them Scots Gaelic. So I started to learn Gaelic. I also went to a summer course to Scotland on the Isle of Skye at Salmorostig. This is the only college, as far as I know, in Scotland where you can learn Gaelic. You can do this in part-time, full-time, long distance, or like me, in a summer course. So I learned Scots Gaelic, which I love. My teacher taught us the old version of Gaelic. There is today a modern version as well. Gaelic was no longer allowed to be spoken after the Jacobites were defeated by the English in 1745. So the language didn't evolve for many years. And I quite like the old version, because things are never owned by you. You would say, an duine acim, which means the man with me, not my husband. You also say that your house is with you and your children and everything around you, because in fact, we cannot possess anything really. You also say, han criacem orst in Gaelic, which means my heart is with you, so I love you. It's such a wonderful poetic language and drew me even further to wanting to live in Scotland when I learned it. Here in the east of Scotland, almost nobody speaks Gaelic. My Scottish husband doesn't speak it, and even his parents only learned it a few years ago. So I do not have many opportunities to speak it, and it is quite rusty today, I have to say. In the west, the Highlands and Islands though, you will see and hear it way more often. It is still spoken there as a mother language. The Scottish government does know this and tries to mitigate the dwindling of the numbers of people speaking it. When you come travelling to Scotland, you will see that on a police car or an ambulance, the word is written in English and Gaelic. And the same applies to the train stations. Our own train station here in our wee town has the word in English and in Gaelic of the name of the town. So I hope that all these steps taken will ensure that the language will survive, because any language lost is always a loss of culture. Maybe you are interested in learning a language, and maybe you are interested in learning Gaelic. Maybe have a look online. I will link the college Salmorostig in the video description, and it would be lovely to have more and more people being interested in making sure that the language will survive in the long run. So now that I've stirred everything quite well, I will put the jug into the fridge for around 24 hours, so all the goodness of the fruit, the plants and the flowers can go into the water. Let me wish you well now. Be you. Embrace who you are. I am sending you all my love from Scotland. Tach baleif.